Hey folks, this is JR with DIY Prepper. Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about some of the best prepper and survival items that you can find at flea markets. And to do that, we're going to be taking a look at a couple of trips that my wife and I have made to the first Monday trade days in Canton, Texas. And it's one of the largest flea markets in the United States. So if you have like either that or another large flea market near you, it's going to be a good representation of the types of things that you should be able to find. One of my favorite things to pick up at flea markets is military surplus. You can find all sorts of different kinds of MREs and then many different sizes of ammo cans. Everything from the small 30 calibers all the way to larger ammo cans such as these. Backpacks are another good thing to look for. And then also load-bearing equipment. It might be some of the older, more Alice style equipment, but if you look hard enough, you should be able to find more modern Molly compatible stuff as well. Boots are another good thing to keep an eye out for. Just try them on to make sure that they fit and they're comfortable. Then there's also other types of clothing, things like BDU pants and even cold weather jackets. Flea markets are also a good place to look for things like water cans and gas cans. I know last time I was there, I was able to pick up a like 5-gallon military water container. Normally those things are like 45 bucks. I paid $20 for the one that I got, and it was in pretty decent shape. And you may also be able to find other things like cots, mosquito nets, and tents. Then along that same vein, sporting goods are something else that you can probably find at flea markets. I know I was able to find a good variety of different kinds of tactical bags. They're not really military surplus, but they could do well for trips to the range, hunting, camping, stuff like that. Then you might also be able to pick up some dedicated hunting supplies. If you're a duck hunter, for example, I was able to find a few different sets of waders, along with a good selection of duck decoys. And then I was even able to find a deer feeder if you're in a state that allows you to bait deer and other types of wild game. Flea markets might also be a good place to pick up different kinds of fishing supplies. I know that I was able to find a good selection of rods, some reels, and then a whole lot of different lures, and then even a minnow bucket. Then I also saw some just general camping or survival equipment things like propane lanterns and heaters, and then also oil lamps. Now, the thing about oil lamps is they're great if you're preparing for a more long-term situation and you don't want to completely depend on electronics, but you need to know what you're getting. Just because something looks old and rusty, that doesn't mean that it's old, vintage, made in USA quality. There's a lot of just Chinese, like rusty junk out there. So make sure that you know what brands to get, things like Dietz, and also make sure that the mechanisms are in good shape as well. And then you can also find other things, like I found some animal traps and then some shooting targets also. One of my absolute favorite things to pick up at flea markets is different kinds of tools. Some of this stuff, it might be old, it might be in bad shape, but there's a lot of it out there that can be restored if you know how to do it. They're a really good place to pick up old, high quality, made in USA tools. And if you're somebody that has like mechanics tools and maybe you're missing a socket or a wrench, you could find a really good replacement. That's what I've done. I inherited a lot of like wrenches, sockets, ratchets, and stuff from my grandfathers and even one of my great grandfathers. And some of those sets were missing pieces. So I would go to Canton and I would try to find wrenches that were from the same manufacturer and hopefully from the same time period, and be able to pick up some really nice old made in USA tools. Flea markets are a great place to pick up old manual style tools, things like hand planes and braces and bits. And then even harder to find specialty items like this old grinder that could be used to sharpen tools. If you're somebody that has a homestead or other large piece of property, you can find things like chainsaws, axes, mattocks, and other pieces of equipment that'll help you take care of that. And then also along those same lines, they're not tools, but if you're somebody who has like a garden or something like that, you go the right time of year, you should be able to find some starter plants also. And one really good thing to pick up at flea markets is blacksmithing equipment and blacksmithing tools. Things like anvils, post vices, and also you might even be able to see a demonstration such as this one. Then I was also able to find new and vintage examples of things like blocks and tackle, chains, shackles, stuff that you could use to secure loads, pull something out if it was stuck, or hoist heavy things up where you needed them to be. And you can also find power tools at flea markets, but I would be very careful about buying something like that used. You want to make sure that you can test it before you buy it. If you're somebody who uses cordless tools, I would strongly recommend taking one of your batteries with you so that you can test the tools before you buy them, so that you don't spend $50 or $100 on something you think is going to be great, but it turns out to be a worthless piece of junk. That's not something that you want to do. I also found some gas cans. The ones pictured here are the more old vintage metal types, but if you look hard enough, I'm sure that you could find some more modern gas cans also. I saw some jacks like this high lift jack here, along with some other things that would be useful for helping you get work done around your property, like wagons. I know you can use those to haul stuff from point A to point B and you don't have to carry them, so that'll save your back and save some calories, along with things like work gloves and other protective equipment that you can use to keep you safe while you're working. And y'all, as I was editing, I realized I left out a big one, which is knives. And the thing about those is you can find some really good custom stuff. You can find some good name brand stuff also. But you have to be careful that you don't run across any of the just counterfeit stuff or just cheap mall ninja junk. And if you do find some good stuff, there's a very good chance that the person selling them knows exactly what they have. So I wouldn't expect to pay a whole lot less than just normal market price for those. The next really good thing to look for at flea markets are different kinds of cooking tools and kitchenware. And one of my favorite things is cast iron cookware. I absolutely love cast iron. It's very versatile. You take care of it, it'll last forever. But one thing to remember about cast iron is, since it rusts pretty quickly if it's not taken care of properly, just because you see cast iron that looks old and rusty, that does not mean that it is real vintage, high quality, made in USA cast iron that maybe your grandma or great grandma used. That is not the case. I have picked up several pieces of cast iron, flipped it over to the back, and seen that it was like just made in China. So you want to know what brands to look for. Lodge comes up first in mind. There's others I can't remember off the top of my head, so that'd be something good to comment down below, is makers of old high quality cast iron. But things like skillets, Dutch ovens, stuff like that, those are very good to look for. And then also manual kitchen tools are another good thing to look for. If the power goes out for a long period of time, you might not be able to use your blender and then all that other kind of stuff. So things like manual meat grinders, manual grain grinders, if you can find those are good things to pick up. And then even food preservation supplies. If you can find a good pressure canner, that'd be a good thing to pick up. And then if you have a way to generate power, something like a food saver might be worth looking into as well. Then you can also find things like dishes that would probably be good to keep at a bug out location or your hunting property if you have something like that, along with things like this wood stove. And that's not just necessarily a piece of cooking equipment, but it could definitely be used for that. And if you live near a large flea market, you might even be able to find things like Berkey filters. The ones pictured here, they're not genuine Berkey. I don't know how good they are, but I have found like full Berkey filters and the black Berkey filtering elements for sale at Canton in years past. Flea markets are also a good place to pick up just general household items and then even clothes. Earlier in the video, I mentioned a lot of surplus stuff, but you should be able to find some new and gently used things like hats and shirts, jeans, and then maybe even shoes as well. Canton also had a ton of different blankets and quilts, and if you're somebody who likes sewing, you should be able to find some things like thread and fabric, and then also maybe even something old and cool like this old weaver's wheel, or if you're needing something that you could use to wash clothes off grid. They have a lot of different kinds of like basins and buckets, and I wasn't able to find one, but you might be able to find a washboard as well. Then they also have a lot of just miscellaneous items. I know I was able to find a lot of people selling silver and other precious metals, and of course that's something that you really want to be well versed on and know what you're doing before you go and buy that sort of thing from just kind of independent vendors that you've never met before, because it would be real easy to get messed over. And it's also a good place to pick up books. I know here I have a lot of kids' books, But there's also books for older folks as well, and given they do tend to be a lot of really sappy, tacky romance novels, but if you look hard enough, you might be able to find some decent stuff also. And the good thing about being a prepper going to a flea market, especially with your family, is there's a lot of different kinds of things there. It's not just something that maybe one or two members of your family will enjoy. They have things like just general antiques. They also even have toys. So if you have a little one with you, they should be able to find something that they can pick up and play with while you're looking for things like axes and berkeys. And one of my favorite things about a place like that is always going to be the food. You can find things from just normal carnival style corn dogs all the way to like specialty types of food like street tacos or even alligator, and they even have food that you can take home with you. I know that purchasing local honey, that's always good, especially if you're somebody like me that has allergies. I'm struggling with them right now, so if I've been doing mess like that through the video, that's why I've been trying really, really hard not to do that. But if I did, that's why. And then other just kind of fun stuff like jerky, kettle corn, and things like that. So, hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank y'all again for stopping by. And you can find some more videos that are kind of best prepper and survival items at whatever place by clicking up here. Y'all have a good one. Thanks again.